Greetings, brothers and sisters. So the news is just so sad without Trump. So I turned this on. I was like, I'm going to eat breakfast yesterday or something. I don't know. Anyways, this was on. I'm just going to play it because it's hilarious. And then I'm going to go to live news just to show you how sad it is. Especially MSNBC and CNN. They're lost without Trump.
Reinstating a position that previous commanders and as well as the secretaries have supported. And what I'm doing is enabling all qualified Americans to serve their country in uniform.
This is riveting. There's like 3 people watching this. He's got his family pictures here.
All right.
Okay, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
No, it's a long way to come. Just for that.
Thank you, guys. Let's go. Come on, you guys. Let's move. Let's go, please.
Everybody out. Okay, we're done. Okay, this is breaking news. Breaking news. They had to cut away from whatever they're doing to see because JoJo was signing something.
Let's go, guys. Let's go.
President Biden behind the Resolute desk, notably wearing a mask. We never saw President Trump wearing a mask.
He's notably wearing a mask. We never saw President Trump wearing a mask. Like, that's just wonderful. Let's listen to that again.
It's a long way to come. Just for that.
Come on, you guys. Let's move. Let's go, please. Go, guys.
President Biden behind the Resolute desk, notably wearing a mask. We never saw President Trump wearing a mask in the Oval Office or in the White House.
Because there was social distancing. A mask is supposed to be for, when you're not socially distanced. And he's going to take it off as soon as the cameras are off. Now, how many people are sleeping with masks? Are people sleeping with masks? Because I think you probably wake up, in bad shape or whatever. Like, it's not something that people want to wear. He's just doing it as a posing or a posture. If there's no cameras there, he wouldn't be wearing one. And so instead of calling that out, right? Like she just wants fake stuff, but they just won't let Trump go, right? I don't know how long this is going to go on, but I think for a while, because that was boring. Like the stuff that's going on right now with JoJo is there without Trump, JoJo just doesn't have any, oomph. There's no, the only reason JoJo was interesting to them was because he wasn't Trump. And that's indicated here. He's wearing a mask and Trump never wore a mask. I'm just saying. So let's go live because I'll show you how bad this is. Just news in general. All of it.
But then they went on to acquit him, and most of those who voted for acquittal said that the reason was that they didn't think that there was jurisdiction. So we're going to hear a lot about that. The second thing we are going to hear, though, is that, what he said was sort of protected by free speech, and we're going to become experts.
They're talking about Trump and his second impeachment. Just boring, like they just won't let anything go, and, it's going to be a dud, the impeachment, because he's already out of office. I don't think anybody's really going to watch it, right? And there's just low energy. There's no Trump. Look, they're just lonely without Trump, right? It's like that Eminem. They feel so empty without Trump.
Experts on this case, Brandenburg versus Ohio, where the Supreme Court worked to distinguish protected free speech on the one hand, which might have bellicose language.
You're using words like bellicose. Come on. They're reduced to bellicose.
And on the other hand, speech that's actually intended, directed to produce some sort of imminent violence. And I think we're going to hear from the president's lawyers that that's not what he was doing. He was engaging in protected free speech, and he didn't actually intend for the raid on the Capitol to happen.
Yeah, intent a lot harder to prove. Julian Epstein, Ross Garber, I'm sure we'll have more questions for you in the coming days and weeks. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I'm sure you will, because you got nothing. It's just like filler now. It's constant filler. Just waiting for Trump to do something, and maybe Trump will come back. Like, don't be sad. Don't be sad, bros.
Well, President Biden is now looking to vaccinate 1.5 million Americans per day, upping his goal. Coming up, how he plans to meet that goal.
Also keeping an eye on the markets this morning. We are moments away from the opening bell. Futures relatively flat this morning, pointing a little bit higher after the brief market dip yesterday. Some big names out with their corporate earnings today could give investors.
It's the markets, but it's just sad. It's sad over at CNN. I feel bad for them. CNN, you guys, you just missed Trump. You got rid of Trump, and now what are you going to do? And nobody's watching. Like, who's watching this stuff?
If you increase that number to $3,600, but you do not make it refundable, that number drops to 21%. So we would spend more money and have less of an impact. Making this fully refundable and making that fully refundable aspect permanent is the most important thing that we can do to address child poverty in this country right now and for the long term.
We've got 24 million.
It's Stephanie Rule. She was specifically obsessed with Trump in a very, she used to be a banker, and they said, hey, stop being a banker and come do the news. And they're talking about child poverty here.
Million kids whose families are too poor to get the child tax credit that is due to them. If there is anyone who disputes why that shouldn't be fixed, please join me any day here at 9 a.m. Andre, I want to ask you about something you are very passionate about, equity in housing. How should the Biden administration tackle this one?
I don't know how he should tackle this one, but I know how he's going to tackle this one. He's not going to do anything. There's no money. Like I talked about this, there's an economic collapse in 2019, a debt-based systemic collapse, not just for America, but the world, because of too much debt, the derivatives and just it's a Ponzi scheme, and so it has to collapse every once in a while. And so there's no money. He made a lot of promises, JoJo, but there's no money. And then after what happened with COVID, and so there'll be some more relief packages maybe, but in the end, there's no money, and JoJo can't do anything.
It was detected in Minnesota on the heels of new strains from the UK and South Africa that are now circulating. Want to bring in our...
It's Brazil COVID. They found the Brazilian COVID is now in the United States. We got Brazilian COVID now, you guys. Somebody's got a coffin in their house, ready to go, because they heard about the Brazilian COVID. Fox News, after bailing on Trump, has gotten desperate over here for viewership.
Our special guest today, Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Of course,
they got Fauci. Now that Trump's gone, Fox has gone full Fauci.
You know him as the White House chief medical advisor on COVID-19. Dr. Fauci, wonderful to see you this morning. So we have so many questions. We're going to try to get them all to you. One of them is this, and I'm hearing this a lot from folks, including my own folks.
How do we fix our viewership, Dr. Fauci? We used to be Republican and pro-Trump, and then we bailed on him. And now the Republicans don't like us. What do we do? Fix it with Dr. Fauci. It should be like a game show. Ask Dr. Fauci how to fix your viewership.
The availability of a second dose. If you get a vaccine and you know that you have to get that follow-up shot 3-4 weeks, will there be enough of those doses available for the people that have gotten shots so far?
The answer is the way the planned cadence of the availability of the doses is that there should be doses available for those. The priority, obviously, is to get as many doses into people as you possibly can. You know, the goal that was set by President Biden of 100 million doses in 100 days. Now, the way the plan is...
Wow. Fox is sad. It's sad Fox now. Let's go back to MSNBC.
Tornado ripped through Jefferson County just north of Birmingham last night, killing at least one person and injuring many more. Right now, search and rescue efforts are underway as officials and residents are just starting to see the extent of the damage. NBC's Blaine Alexander is on the ground in Fultondale, Alabama.
Good luck for MSNBC. They got a tornado report on. You know, they don't got Trump, but they got a tornado for today.
Blaine, what's it like there?
You know, there was a tornado. But we're missing Trump. But it's a tornado, you know. It's a tornado.
Well, Seth, good morning to you. This will give you a good picture of what it feels like here in Fultondale, at least part of it. This is the Hampton Inn. This is, or at least what's left of it. This is one of the places that took a direct hit. You can see inside what are typically the automatic doors, just all of the damage inside. But Seth, if you'll walk with me over this way, as bad as it is on the inside, it is even worse on the outside.
Well, that's weird. I thought that tornadoes would do more damage on the inside. Now I know that they do actually more damage on the outside.
We're seeing damage like this in places that took direct hits. I'll show you the front of this building, or really what's left of it. You can see the entire front of the hotel. The front was blown off. You know, making things even more difficult is the fact that this storm hit. It touched down just before 11 o'clock. It's a time when most people were already asleep, already in bed. We talked to the fire chief who said they only had minutes notice for people to get to safety. Now,
riveting. There's a tornado in Alabama, you guys. It's not Trump, but, you know, it's something. It's something.
Inherited an economy just struggling to hang on in the midst of the pandemic, with millions of Americans still out of work, many families facing eviction and outright hunger in America in 2021. Will Congress pass Biden's $1 trillion relief bill? A look at who needs the help right now is next.
Are they going to pass his new relief bill? Let's just have a relief bill. You know, $1 trillion every couple of months. And they give everybody $600 for, you know, $1,000 until there's just no more, like the dollar's worth nothing. There it is. And now they've got this. Biden's inherited this economy. Like, he didn't, you know, he had nothing to do to cause it. He didn't do anything to cause this thing with their agenda.
The probe found no evidence that Black was involved with Epstein's criminal activities, and he will remain chairman of Apollo. Black says to address what he calls a grievous error, he'll pledge $200 million towards gender equity initiatives and supporting survivors of domestic violence.
Apollo Global CEO Leon Black paid sex predator Jeffrey Epstein $158 million. They're even covering Epstein now on MSNBC. You know, they don't have anything without Trump.
Sexual assault and human trafficking. That is just a fraction of the estimated $2 billion he made from Epstein's financial advice. Epstein, who was neither a tax lawyer or a college graduate.
What about the tornado? You guys, that's all that, you know, they moved on from the tornado to Epstein. Like, they have nothing. They have no content anymore. And the content was 100% about Trump.
All its flaws, which it does have, the better part of really what we should be doing is joining back with them. We should put their feet to the fire about getting reforms, but to be completely out of that circuit, I don't think is productive when you're dealing with a global pandemic.
Well, I'm no scientist, you know that. I'm no doctor.
He's no doctor. This guy's no doctor. I mean, I thought he was. Like, I thought he was a doctor and a crappy morning host. Like, you know, like this brilliant rocket scientist right here. I thought he was two things. Well, what are you? You're definitely something else, but just a crappy morning Fox TV show host. What else are you? You're a carpenter? You're a plumber? What do you do? Like, you're the kind of guy that needs 2 gigs.
Where did this virus come from, do you think, today? Did it come from a lab? Was it man-made? From where?
You know, my opinion and that of so many of my infectious disease colleagues is that if you look at the genomic sequences of the viruses that are in bats in the wild, it's strikingly similar to the sequences that you have found now in people who have been infected with the original wild-type virus.
You were back to the bat thing? Last year, we were talking about bats. This was something from last year, right? It was a bat virus last year, and now it's back to bats. But no Trump. There's no Trump. It feels so empty without Trump. But, you know, it's bats again.
So it is totally compatible with a jumping of species, similar to what we saw with SARS in 2002, where it went from a bat likely to a civet cat to a human and then spread. What we've seen with MERS, where it went from a bat to a camel to a human.
Those freaking bats are busy. They're getting in with civet cats and camels and then humans. There's 3 bat diseases we've had. What those bats? We got to do something about those bats. They're They're disease spreaders. They're super spreaders. Somebody mask up those. Have we made masks for bats, Fauci? Let's get some masks on those bats.
So there's every reason to believe that jumping of species from an animal reservoir occurred.
Well, then that means then that the door is open that this could have come from a market in Wuhan. Am I right about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was.
They're bat eaters over there. It's back to this. Bat soup. It's bat soup. It's like bat soup crazy over there. They're eating bat soup, even if and they're obviously not boiling the bat. It's warm bat soup where the COVID can just, and these bats that don't wear masks. I mean, it's crazy.
This is one of the things that I've been talking and my colleagues have been talking about for some time. When you have the animal-human interface and you have animals that come out of the wild that are sold at these open, what they call them, wet markets, where people buy these things for festive dinners or what have you.
There's nothing more festive than bat. Like if you're going to have a festive dinner, like you have your Christmas Eve dinner, Christmas Day dinner, you better have some bat on the menu. It's so festive.
That certainly is a risk of making a jumping of species from an animal reservoir to a human.
So
likely.
here's the catch here then.
You better be asking why, like, can we stop eating bats? Can we make an agreement that we stop eating bats, right? And it's just, take bats, which is a flying rat, off the menu.
If the World Health Organization is not in Wuhan for a year, and who knows what the Chinese Communist Party is telling us, how can we figure out the origins of this virus ultimately at any point, Dr. Fauci?
Well, that's the reason why I have, from the beginning, Bill, said it is very important for us to get there and go there and interact with the Chinese health officials and the scientists.
And sit down, have some bat, have a festive meal over there with a bat, Bill Gates and Fauci, and, maybe Trump will show up just because, he's not doing anything. It'll make it more festive if Trump is there eating some bat.
To find out, for example, what is in the bat population there right now. We do have scientists that are working with them now, but we do need to get much more transparency. I have no doubt about that, and I've been saying that for a very long period of time.
We got to get to the bottom of this bat. Like, we got to find out what's going on with the bats in Wuhan. Like, if we find out what's going on with the bats in Wuhan, we can pretty much reverse this thing.
You made the request, and what did Beijing say after that question?
Well,
keep your stinking hands off our bats, Fauci. That's what they said.
Randomized controlled trials. So even if you've decided that your child or adolescent might need mental health support, the supply-demand mismatch has become quite intense. More people are seeking help than ever, and we still have the same supply of mental health practitioners. So creativity, resilience, connection, a program like NAMI Basics, that's available at NAMI.org, NAMI.org. This was
because there's lots of kids who are suffering mental health crises because of being locked down. And let's just get more counselors. Like, we need more counselors. Let's not look at other options. The bats. Those frickin' bats.
Was studied at the University of Texas and shown to be quite effective for parents. And it's just one other way to approach this incredibly challenging situation that we're all faced with.
Doctor, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we want everyone watching and listening to remember, you are not alone. If you are struggling with mental health issues, there is help.
Maybe you can get a pet bat, like, you can get an emotional support bat or something. Like, there's lots of bats in Wuhan, lonely bats, and maybe if you get a pet bat, you'll feel better.
If you need help, ask for it. But also, if you can give help, please give it. Pick up the phone, reach out to a friend, a neighbor, someone in your building. If you don't even know them and you see they're alone, write them a note.
Exactly. Someone suffering mental health crisis from being lonely, and what you do is put a little sticky note on their door Maybe they'll see it, maybe they won't, you know. Their outside door, write them a quick little note. Hey, we see you're lonely over there. I just want to say, hey, did you hear about those bats in Wuhan? They're crazy.
I'm Manu Raju in Washington, D.C., and this is CNN.
Well, as soon as today, the Supreme Court may begin acting on several controversial issues, including the question of the release of former President Trump's tax returns.
The High Court is set to decide if his returns can go to the Manhattan District Attorney, and the Biden administration is debating whether or not they will turn over Trump's federal returns to Congress. Our Kara Scannell and Ariane DeVoe join us now to
So they got some more Trump news. They're back to Trump. No bats here. They're just, you know, they're more focused on Trump for CNN.
discuss two separate tax-related issues here. And what's interesting, Kara, is I believe it's a Trump-appointed judge making the decision on the House request for the documents, right? And it's like giving it a 2-week delay here?
Oh, yeah, right, Pop.
Look at the low energy. They're just, you know, hey, it's Trump. Hey, you know, we're talking about Trump's taxes again, you know. He's no longer president, but we don't got anything else to talk about.
So this is a Trump-appointed judge who has overseen this lawsuit since 2019. And what he has said is that he wants to hear from all the parties next week by February 3rd, from the Biden administration, from the president's private lawyers, and from the House Democrats to see where
This is where we are. We're back to bats and Trump's taxes. The news is just so sad. It's just so lonely without Trump's. Only spirituality will save this world, you CNN sad folks. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.